Hello, and welcome to Manger's Study. I am your host, CJ, and this is episode 2 on Project 2025. As I'm recording this is the 17th of July, 2024, and there are 110 days until midnight on Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, which is Election Day. We are still in the foreword on page 7, or 39 of the PDF, and we're looking at Promise 2, dismantling the administrative state and returning self-governance to the American people. Conservatives want limited, read constitutional, government to protect human flourishment, to promote human flourishing. The Washington establishment doesn't want limited government or accountability. Adhering to the Constitution is the way to make the federal government smaller, more effective, and more accountable. And generations of progressives, which include some Republicans, have chipped away at proper constitutionalism. The federal budget, for example, hasn't been properly done since 1996. Congress no longer meaningfully budgets the federal government, as omnibus spending agreements leave no time for negotiation among the non-elites, let alone the time to even read the budget that Congress people are supposed to vote on. Democracy, Project 2025 argues, is being harmed by the behavior found in the establishment of Washington. Project 2025 then places the administrative state, aka the deep state, aka the bureaucratic state, in its sights. The administrative state is unconstitutional and usurps the power of Congress, placing more power into unelected members of the executive branch, and these bureaucratic agencies are doing, well, bad things. Project 2025 calls for the president to do away with these excessive executive regulations and to get rid of the bureaucrats in charge of them. The left, you see, has amassed these powers in these institutions, and they will continue to do so until Congress does its job and decides to take that power back. Until then, a conservative president can keep the institutional bureaucracy handcuffed. Later on in the book, we'll get to know exactly how the president can do this, or so the book promises. All right, so when we look at the demonization of the establishment of the bureaucratic administrative state, what we're seeing is populism. Populism is political figures railing against the elites to help the average person, the little guy, the working Joe. That doesn't make it good or bad. It's simply a tactic. Rhetorically, you'll hear populism from both the left and the right. Some politicians are more elitists. I and my experts are going to fix your problems. And other politicians are more populist. I'm going to keep the man from messing with you. There are tactics and strategies that consultants will tell you to take at different times and at different places and in different circumstances, because the mob is fickle. Sometimes they want a leader and experts, and sometimes they just want to be left alone. I think it's worth noting that so far, this appears to be a very populist document, but we still have some 880 or so pages to go. We'll see how that works out. As far as the Constitution goes, I tend to agree with Lysander Spooner. Quote, "But whether the Constitution really be one thing or another, this much is certain, that it has either authorized such a government as we have had, or it is powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist. As for the ideas of eliminating the bureaucratic state, I'm down for it. I'm not sure, however, if conservatives can actually commit to that stance, or whether they will forget all about it on January 21st of 2025, and instead of destroying the One Ring, they will attempt to wield it." Promise 3 is defending our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. I have a feeling things are about to get a bit neocon in here, but we'll find out. Let's see. We start out with the U.S. being we, the people, etc. In DC, though, the progressive elites wish to take the we the people out to eliminate self-governance, to eliminate the rule of law, to eliminate liberty. They don't trust the American people to do what's right, and instead these Wilsonians want the managerial elite to run everything. Building on this theme, the left wants to control the world, and one way they do this is by supporting open borders. Open borders increase crime and decrease resources and wages for Americans. It does depress wages, which is why the managerial elites like it. Environmentalism causes the most vulnerable to suffer and is really just a pseudo-religion designed to give elites more power over the common person, not to mention lead us into a world of economic devastation. Economic globalization is also bad. Free trade is bad. Trading with China has destroyed our industrial base and turned us more like the totalitarian Chinese Communist Party than the other way around. Big tech, of course, has profited from our trade with China, and they do the CCP's bidding. TikTok, for example, is Chinese espionage. China is America's enemy, and America's elites have betrayed the American people by siding with China against America. We need to abandon international organizations or agreements that erode our constitutional authority. We need to seal the border, and we need to end engagement with China. And then we can dominate the world's energy market. Okay? I hate Wilson as much as the next person. And by the way, you should hate Woodrow Wilson too. I'm not entirely against what Project 2025 is saying about the managerial state. I'm just experienced enough to know that you can't trust Republicans to actually do what they say they will do and rein in the managerial state. Republicans, conservatives used to be pro-free trade, but have apparently given up on free market capitalism to embrace nationalism and industrial policy. I say that, of course, after living through several Republican and nominally conservative administrations that seem to do everything they could do to thwart free market capitalism. Now, they're not even giving it lip service at this point. At the risk of offending my leftist friends, we're no longer having a fight between capitalism and progressivism, but it's rather like a rerun of the early 1900s where we're deciding which progressivism we want. Promise 4 is to secure our God-given individual right to enjoy, quote, the blessings of liberty, unquote. The pursuit of happiness that's in the Declaration of Independence is actually the, quote, pursuit of blessedness, unquote. An individual must be free to live as his or her creator ordained. We are given the liberty not to do what we want, but to do what we ought to do. The radical equality described by the founders is hated by the rich and powerful. There's more populism in there. I'm not going to go through all of it. There's a lot of railing against socialism, praising capitalism, even though a few paragraphs before they were talking about how bad capitalism was. This is the lip service that I was expecting from earlier, I suppose. Right after that, of course, and after talking about tax and regulatory reform, the next administration should include antitrust enforcement against corporate monopolies. All right. The first bit about Project 2025 telling us what the founders meant by the blessings of liberty is just downright scary. Allow me, if you will, to quote from one Barry Goldwater. Quote, "Mark my word, if and when these preachers get control of the party, and they're sure trying to do so, it's going to be a terrible damn problem. Frankly, these people frighten me. Politics and governing demand compromise, but these Christians believe that they are acting in the name of God, so they can't and won't compromise. I know. I've tried to deal with them." Unquote. As for modern conservative ideas of capitalism, look, if you want to end monopolies, end the government support of these monopolies. Monopolies, true monopolies, only exist if given that power by the state. The state doesn't have to bust monopolies and break them up. All the state has to do, all the government has to do is to stop supporting them, and then they'll be gone. Just a thought. All right, the conclusion of the foreword is here. Best effort. It's what the title of the conclusion is called, is best effort. The left doesn't believe in equality. They believe that they are special. The left believes that it has the right and responsibility to make decisions for you, because you are too dumb and you would pick wrong. You would do the wrong things. Project 2025 is here to unite conservatives and the people against our bureaucratic, elite, woke culture warrior enemies. Time is running short, and we may not get a chance to save the Republic again. I'm frankly a little bit surprised that they didn't write in something about that this is the most important election in our lifetime, but they can't all be zingers. I don't really fully agree at all with the pronouncements about the left made in this section. Project 2025 is describing authoritarianism as their enemy, while also making some authoritarian overtures to defeat their enemy. Authoritarianism can be either on the left or on the right. Regardless, that is the end of the foreword. Yeah. I think I have my work cut out for me in the rest of this, but hey, until next episode, take it easy.